Today, we're turning back the clock, way back, to one of the world's oldest and most storied culinary cultures. Think pyramids, pharaohs, and yes, falafel. We're heading to Egypt. Joining me is a respected colleague and fellow family business leader, Judy Sirafim, commercial director at Spice Kingdom. Based in Egypt, Spice Kingdom is one of the largest organic spice producers in the region. We're digging into how you grow certified organic spices in the desert, what makes Egyptian botanicals unique, and how a family-run operation thrives in the global marketplace. So grab your cumin, crack open that coriander, and let's explore the spice trade along the Nile, OG Spice Guy style. Well, I'm here. Rob's here.
Present. So you just flew in today.
Yeah.
How was your trip?
It was good.
Yeah?
You know what I think they should have on planes as an option?
Tell me.
Barbers.
Okay. I mean,
I know that's a
would be
weird thing
one.
to say.
No. Like,
I just thought, what
want
is
to kill some stones.
Exactly. What is it?
Kill some birds with stones.
Kill some stones.
That's what I know. You want to kill some birds. So yes, get your hair cut on a plane seems amazing.
And how great for the barber. He's like knocking out 20, 30-minute haircuts. It's a 6-hour flight.
It's a good one. I think it would get a little messy, a little hygiene. You're sitting pretty close to people, right?
Well, not in the chair. You go to the back of the plane, and he's got a little area. He's got a barber booth.
Oh, yeah. I thought he was just going up and down the aisle. So you flew in today just to make it to the podcast.
Just for the podcast.
For you. We got Egyptian food coming later, so
Yeah.
I'm excited about that. I, this morning, have already dug a 2-foot hole in my front yard, by the way.
Oh, my God.
Do
I need plausible deniability on this?
No,
You need an alibi?
for a olive tree that we are planting in the front yard.
Oh, olive tree.
Yeah, like a little olive
So
tree.
let me ask you, is the olive tree, when it has its birth or branches, is it over the sidewalk or concrete driveway, anything, or is it all over grass?
It's going to be over mulch.
Okay, good. Because
Why?
the reason I ask is because, here in town, there's a lot of olive trees. Man, when those olives hit the ground, it so badly stains the sidewalk.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, the dark.
Yeah, dark. They must be Kamalata olives. Is that how you say it?
No, Kamala
Harris.
Kalamata olives.
Between the two of us, we have one brain.
Yeah.
All right, we brought the social media team in. This is Sophia. So for the comments and corrections part of the podcast, I don't have any corrections that I know of, but I have a feeling you're about to change
We
that.
have a couple comments. And I think it's more clarification than just being like straight up.
Okay,
like
where I got something
corrected.
wrong.
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
All right, what
Okay,
happened?
so we made a video talking about tariffs and how store shelves are going to be empty soon because the trade war with China is going to make it so that we don't have the shipping containers to continue to export products.
Okay.
And someone said, make more shipping containers, dummy.
Dummy. Okay.
Yeah. So do you have a response to that, or is that okay?
My response would be like anything that's manufactured in the United States. I honestly don't know if we make shipping containers in the United States.
Where are they made?
My guess would be China.
Okay.
Yeah. So, sure, we could make shipping containers. Let's go with that for a second. Let's say we
go ahead.
manufacture shipping containers in the U.S. My guess is that they would be, I don't know, twice as expensive as a shipping container that's manufactured in China. And again, like tariffs, that's getting passed down. So you buy a shipping container, it's more expensive. It's more expensive to ship that shipping container. So prices are going to go up.
Yeah.
There's a reason why these get manufactured overseas.
You see, it makes a lot of sense. So that's your answer.
That's
There you
just
go.
kind of going off of it. Yeah.
Absolutely. And then the only other big one was we made a video about how garlic is grown.
Okay.
And you said that garlic is vegetatively propagated.
Right.
And so someone said the classic question of, so how did the first garlic grow? And then someone said, bruh, all these plants make seeds and it's just more efficient for farmers to grow them vegetatively.
Yes. Yes. So this is a real chicken or the egg situation.
Yeah. So
So it's true. All plants do make seeds. And I think it's up to each individual farmer how they're farming. The farmers that we, when we did the research for this episode that we spoke to, they do vegetative propagation.
Right.
Again, my hypothesis is that it's almost like a clone. So it keeps the flavor, the size, all the organoleptics very consistent from crop to crop to crop.
Right.
So yeah, sure. I'm sure you could grow from seed. I mean, you can go to the store and buy garlic seed. We all know that, just like you can buy onion seed.
Right. In the cloves of garlic, like are the seeds inside of those cloves? Like, is that?
So garlic, if you ever have garlic that maybe sits on the counter or on your refrigerator for too long, it grows this little green, like stem. That's a shoot.
Okay.
So that shoot will eventually form like a flower. And that flower is where the seeds are contained. So super excited. Joining us today is a good friend and colleague also in the organic herb and spice trade, Judy Sirafim. Judy, welcome to the OG Spice Guy Show.
Thank you so much. It's my pleasure to be here.
We appreciate you making time. Super exciting episode. What I really like about Spice Kingdom is like high quality organics. You guys are family owned and operated. So can you give us a little background? Take us through what were your origins?
Yeah, so I am fourth generation in the business. In 1919, my great-grandfather started Spice Land, and then my grandfather took it over. And I'm following in the 80s, my father started Spice Kingdom, where we built a fully automated and high-end factory. And this is where we are supplying herbs and seeds out of Egypt. So it is very exciting to be a family-owned business. It brings like the passion into the business and working. My father is our CEO. My mother is the quality director. I have two siblings. Both of them are in the business, which is very exciting to be working alongside the family.
Just to jump in there, I want to know the moment when it was your grandfather said, Spice Land is not good. We need to go from land to kingdom.
When we built the new facility, this was in a new industrial area, and it's fully automated, and it's equipped to supply ready-to-eat products. It's time to move from a land to kingdom. So this is how we move. Yeah.
That's interesting. I love that. I had been going up to Reno and kind of following in my father's footsteps. Of course, High Quality Organics is located in Reno. And he would show me, we have multiple buildings. It spans some large area in Reno. And I know this is going to sound corny, but it reminds me of that scene from The Lion King where Mufasa said, you see, everything the sun touches, is part of our kingdom. And so I always kind of draw on that scene where my dad's kind of giving me the overview of the business and saying, hey, this is ours. And more importantly than it being ours is it's our responsibility to take care of the people, the suppliers, the food, and the customers that we serve.
You also work with your dad, but Judy works with her whole family.
Her whole family. Like. I only have one person to deal with. I can't imagine an entire family.
The good thing is that we know how to deal with each other. We know the ins and outs.
I bet. So how do you guys balance that when you all get together for family dinners, holidays, things like that? Is there a lot of shop talk, or do you have a rule at the table?
It does come up a lot at family dinners. Yes, business talk does come along, but then you've got my husband and my sister's husband. They are not in the business, so we say, okay, fine, enough of business. Let's do some family time with no work.
Can you kind of give us an idea of the landscape in Egypt? Where is Spice Kingdom located? Where your processing facility, your farms? Kind of help us understand the topography of the area.
Well, Spice Kingdom is located in an industrial area, very close to Cairo. It's called Obor City. This is where all of the manufacturing, the sterilization is done over there. When it comes to the agriculture, 96% of the land is just pure desert. All of the plantations are typically located near the riverbanks. In the course of the past year, with Egypt's efforts to improve the economy and to utilize the unused land and all of the desert, there are a lot of underground reservoir water that is just unutilized. So the government did a big project in making channels of wells in the desert area, and they have expanded a network of wells. Each well is 800 meters deep, which is about 2,600 feet.
Wow. Yeah, that's far.
And then this is where you have access to the underground water, and it's used for the plantations. So now if you look at the map, you can see that there is in the Farafra area, big plantations, and it's very interesting to see it. It's like spots of green in between the deserts. And they have created also big channels to take the River Nile water from the mainstream into the desert and create a new delta area where new farms and new plantations, all dedicated for export. When you're using directly the River Nile, there is a small step of filtration. And then when you're using the wells for watering, the water coming up from the wells is really hot, because you can imagine pulling water from 800 meters down.
Sure.
So at each farm, you have to have an area where the water comes. It's like a cooling area. So the water comes up, it goes into this reservoir, and it took time to cool down, because it can burn the plantation straight up if used at the same temperature coming from underground.
Listen, I'm just excited about innovation. So what you're telling us, Judy, is that farmers weren't farming these spices, and you innovated, and this whole country has innovated, it sounded like, to put water in the ground or take it from the ground so that we can be farming things and we can be exporting things.
Yeah. You know, you were saying, Judy, that a lot of these farms are family farms, and you were mentioning the size. How many acres is the average family farm?
10 to 15 acres of land is the standard farmer.
Yeah.
Moving into the desert area for plantation, where it's mainly based on investors coming into this area and planting. So they don't have the background in farming. The investors are coming, they want to take a land, and then they partner with people like us. We agree, for example, okay, let's do 1,000 acres of basil. And then we have our group of agronomists that go and they live in the fields, taking care step by step when the seeds goes into the ground. When do we water? What nutrients we use? What they look at after everything to make sure that the end product that we're looking for meets the final material that we want to reach. So this is how we are able to achieve a proper organic and pesticide-free material through this supply chain that we have created with multiple investors in the region.
When I look at photos, especially aerial photos, the areas of green are always circular. Why is that?
These are based on pivots. So you get this center pivot with an arm that covers an area of about 120 acres.
Okay.
And this is the arm that you feed the farm with. This is how we water the farm. It goes in a circle all around the area.
Okay.
And any nutrients, anything that you want to feed the farm, this is how you do it.
So Rob, this is, us growing up in America, that gigantic sprinkler that we ran through with our dog, except it's not a sprinkler. An acre is it's a little bit smaller than a football field. So think of a football field without the end zones. That's an acre. So 120 of those is in one pivot. Yeah, give us a little bit of some perspective. When you're growing, let's take an herb like basil, how many acres are you growing at a time?
Yeah, so basil is planted during the summer. It's harvested in the summer, and so it has to be all done in at once. Just to give you an idea, one pivot is approximately 120 tons of final dry product. Every 7 tons give you a fresh. So when you're harvesting and you get 7 tons of fresh material, this translates into 1 ton of dry.
So there was a lot of math there. So
There's a lot
acre,
of method.
yeah. So one pivot is 120 acres.
Got it.
120 acres of freshly planted basil will yield how much? Is it 1 acre is 1 ton, or did I get that? Did I hear that right?
Yes. Yes.
So
we can
1
assume
acre is 1
acre
ton.
is 1
This
ton.
is a metric ton, which is 2,200 pounds of fresh basil. And then I heard Judy say the dry down ratio is 7-1. So for every 7 tons of fresh basil, you get 1 ton of dried basil.
Totally get it.
So the farmer, in this case Judy in Spice Kingdom, have to grow 7 times more. Feed it, water it, care for it 7 times more. And after they dry it down, they only get to sell us 1/7 of what they've grown, because the other 1/6
Is water.
Exactly.
So, Judy, you had mentioned something earlier. You had said that, there are many products that grow in Egypt that are not, part of the local cuisine. And I think that as supply chains develop, that's the easiest way that they initially develop, is based on what's local cuisine. Chilies grow in India because, Indians like spicy foods.
Spicy.
Right? And they grow there because they grow there, right? It's the right temperature, it's the right climate, it's the right environment. And so Indians get really good at growing chilies and eventually export them for sale around the globe. But it seems like the case is slightly different in Egypt, because from what I'm hearing you say, Judy, that Egyptians, farmers, growers, are growing products that are not really native to Egypt. So can you talk about that a little bit more?
We are living now in what it's being called the era of agricultural renaissance. Just to give you an idea of how big the investments are happening in the agriculture part of Egypt. Over the past few years, we are seeing items that are originally growing in other regions, in Europe, for example, or in other countries north of Africa as well. They are moving to Egypt, and they have proven also their success. An example is thyme, for example. This used to be from a European origin, from a North African origin. Now it's just typical and native to Egypt in growing thyme. Now with the climate change, with the droughts that have been happening year over year in Europe, it's one of the very big items now for us. Egypt for herbs is proving success.
Yeah. It almost makes me chuckle a little bit, Judy, like when you're talking about, there's droughts in Europe, so we're going to farm in Egypt instead. It's like, it's a desert,
The title of this podcast is going to be Egypt's Agricultural Renaissance.
I love that. Yeah, Judy came up with the title.
Clearly, I mean,
I'm on board.
So I think this is actually really interesting. How many cuttings of basil can you get per season?
We get 3 cuttings of basil every season.
Okay.
Depending on the weather, we can push for a 4th one, but it's typically 3 cuttings a year.
Okay. And how long is the growing season for basil?
It's June till October.
So you're harvesting, and then in the time that there's 3 cuttings, right? So only 18 weeks, I have to make that last. And so all too often, I'll get a customer, let's say December, January, February, saying, "Do you have basil?" "No, I'm out of stock." And of course they're not happy when they hear that, because that's it. There's just no more basil available.
once it's harvested in the field, we have to make the drying on the field level as well, because you can imagine the cost of trucking if we're moving fresh
Water.
material.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You're moving and then it's going to dry. Plus, if you move fresh material, the color changes and it can impact the quality of the product.
Interesting.
So once it's harvesting at the field, it is dried. If it's a product like basil, then it is sun-dried, and we have plenty of sun in the desert.
Yeah.
And so it's a multi-step process. We bring it to the cut size that we want, and then we send it for steam sterilization. That's where we kill any pathogens in the product that has come its way from the farms. And then the product is packed once again, and this is where it's finally ready for export as final ready-to-eat material. We ship through the Mediterranean, typically.
Okay.
Most of the vessels are coming from the Far East through the Suez Canal into the Mediterranean, and this is where then we load our containers, and then it takes its journey to the US.
Got it. So, Rob, you remember a news story with the Suez Canal a couple of years ago. I draw on that example to help the listeners understand, like, on the surface, you're like, oh, that's the Suez Canal. That's way over, there. It doesn't impact me. No, it does. Because the basil, as Judy said, that maybe you're putting on your pizza or that's going to go into your tomato sauce is on that vessel. Right. And in some cases, there's pirates, that's more recent, or geopolitical events such as wars. It impacts your products directly because this is where they're coming from.
You're not FedExing a cargo truck of basil from Cairo to...
We avoid that. Our equivalent of FedExing is air freighting. And, just to give you some perspective, Judy, correct me if I'm wrong, but cost per pound to put something on an ocean at 45 days, journey is usually, maybe 3, 4, 5 cents a pound cost.
Okay.
To air freight it can be $3 a pound.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Big difference.
Big difference.
So
Big difference.
you get,
Yeah.
have you got clients saying, no, I
happens.
Really need it?
It happens. Yeah. Sometimes, we'll have customers that say we're in an emergency. We have to have it. And so oftentimes what we do is we'll say, what's your minimum that you need to do your production run? They might say, I need 500 pounds. All right, we'll air freight 500 pounds. Unfortunately, they're going to have to pay for the cost. And then we'll put the rest on a sea container. And then, 45 days sailing, but start to finish, it's more like 70 days because you have delays at the ports. Sometimes it gets transloaded, meaning it goes through different ports. And then when it comes to the Port of Oakland, it can be held, it can go under inspection, and then it has to get trucked to our facility. So, it's 70 days is not unreasonable start to finish.
Okay. That's good perspective for the average American pizza eater.
Yeah. I want to, of course, talk about the tariffs briefly. It's constant news here in America as it is around the world, on again, off again. At the time of this recording, courts had blocked the tariffs, and then within hours, they were allowed to resume, which I'm not sure how that's possible, but it is what it is. So, Judy, can you talk a little bit about how these tariffs are impacting your business directly? And please answer the question that's going around: who pays for tariffs?
But this was not accounted for anywhere along the supply chain between my end, your end. No one planned for this because nobody saw them coming. And from what we are seeing now is that the tariffs will be passed on to the consumer at the end of the day. As the industry get accustomed to it, eventually the market will have to adjust itself. There are other regions that had forever customs on the tariffs applied on them,
Sure.
and the industry is accustomed to it, and they know how to adjust their pricing with it.
Yep.
it will happen. The same thing will happen. It will just take 6 months to a year for the whole industry to accommodate the new applied tariffs, and it will just eventually be a part of the normal part of the business.
You know, as the adage goes, the only thing that remains constant is change. Tariffs are definitely keeping us on our toes. We'll kind of see what comes of it, but it's definitely changing the organic spice trade for sure. So I really do appreciate you spending time with us today, Judy, and really educating myself, Rob, and of course our listeners onto all the hard work that has to go into growing these products. Again, it just blows my mind that you can, grow, hundreds of tons of fresh produce in the middle of the desert, and
with underground boiling water.
Yeah, exactly. But I think that's where that tenacity, perseverance, and a little bit of technology helps. So we really do appreciate your time, Judy.
Really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for having me on the show. It's been a real pleasure being with you today.
I know at the end of every episode is Rob's favorite part.
I'm starving.
Food. He's been fasting all day. Now he wants to be feasting. We have an Egyptian restaurant here in Los Angeles.
Yes.
We'll bring everybody around the table.
Yeah, we'll ask the ladies to come on over and bring the food. The OG Spice Guy Show is recorded and produced by Hey Babe Media in South Pasadena, California, in association with HQ Organics, America's leading provider of organic spices. Today's episode was produced by Rod Clyde, associate producer Max Flora. It was engineered and edited by Drew Unser. The assistant editor is Andrew Weinstock, set design by Shen Heckel, web and SEO by Rebecca McDonald, and graphics by Michelle Esteva. Social media services are provided by Noel Mercer and Sophia Sherman of Soel Social. You can DM and follow us on all platforms and socials at OG Spice Guy.